Having gotten my hands on a small amount of 3,4,5-trimethoxybenzaldehyde, I set upon the difficult task of synthesizing mescaline, which as it turns out was not all that difficult. I reached the phenethylamine product by way of the nitrostyrene. Lemonger's procedure entails the use of zinc powder and conc. hydrochloric acid to reduce the nitrostyrene at a low temperature and works very well for 3,4,5-trimethoxynitrostyrene. I made sure to keep the temperature between 5 to 15 degec for the entire reaction length, which was approximately 6 hours. Leeminger says to go for a longer reaction time, but there was no more nitrostyrene left after 6 hours. Of course, this was visually noted because the nitrostyrene is insoluble in cold ETOH or MeOH, and will disappear as it is converted to the highly soluble amine hydrochloride salt. I then proceeded to add 25% NaOH very slowly and with much cooling in an ice bath. Zinc hydroxide precipitated and made the liquor a mass of thickness. As more NaOH Soln was added, the precipitate became more mobile and finally almost completely dissolved. Trying to extract this thick liquor can be difficult due to the strong emulsions that occur. The trick is to try to dilute the mother liquor as much as is needed and add brine. And with vigilance comes success. Evaporating the organic layer gave a thick oil that was an orange amber-like color. Treating this oil with the correct amount of sulfuric acid solution, see Leeminger, gave an immediate precipitate of salt. The salt was collected and dissolved in hot ethanol, which upon cooling deposited a nice tan, sparkly, crystalline solid that amounted to about 750 milligrams, 50% yield from the nitrostyrene. I separated this amount unequally into 6 capsules and pondered what to do with my creation. So, I decided that I would take 2 capsules as a first-time Zinkar in the land of wizards with mescaline. Amount, approximately 200 milligrams. Weight, 155 pounds. Age, 27. I swallowed the fine poison around 6 p.m. and stared down the clock. Why do I always feel like such a douchebag when I consume items that cause acute mental phenomena to occur? I think I am guilty of the fact that I have a weakness that society deplores. But it is one I cannot give up just yet. So close your eyes and brush the worrisome voice from thy shoulder. Attend the matter at hand. The first hour went by with my perception unchanged, though I could be somewhat certain that a light, uplifting feeling began to make itself known at the tail end of that first hour. By the middle of the second hour, this lightening of the mind and bodily calmness was very evident but was not strong. At the beginning of the second hour to the third hour, some new experiences became apparent to me. Every breath that I took felt as though I were really breathing. As though I was not just a puppet to the automaton machinery that is housed inside my body. With my eyes closed, there was more perceived depth to the darkness, with different tones of soft colors but no visions. Looking in the mirror, I noticed that my eyes were slightly dilated and a bit red from being dry. Dried the mucous membranes somewhat, but significantly less than that caused by taking 2 capsules of Benadryl. Going into the fourth hour, some movement in the visual field became more pronounced, but was only about the same as if I had twirled around really fast a few times. This material has a good energy push at this level. And there was a bit of clenchy in me jaws. I am not a big conversationalist, but once I started talking to my mother on the phone I did not want to stop. A wide range of topics to talk about seemed to come naturally and I found each had a significance of its own to me. I found that whatever I was talking about was not merely a display of sound and words. Each thing forced me into emotional involvement, whether it was strong fear or wonderful happiness. The reader should know that this sort of behavior is very unusual for me as I rarely bring emotion into a conversation. I am very emotionless. So, To me this was a profound change. But to other personalities this amount of mescaline may just make an ordinary evening a bit more interesting. But not much. I was at cruising level from the 5-hour mark to baseline, which is well past 8 hours. Mescaline gradually wears off, which makes for a smooth entry to normalcy. There were also barely noticeable visual effects and scenes with closed eyes at the 4th hour to about the 6th or 7th hour. And that concludes this ride. But please keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle because we are about to take another amount, approximately 550 milligrams a day to kill may end up killing 4 capsules down the hatch at noon. For the first hour I ran some errands, got an oil change and mailed some packages. And I felt nothing in the way of effects. I decided to go for a run around a nearby college campus and through a park and outdoor recreation center. Wow! I did not get the least bit tired after running about 45 minutes straight over hilly terrain. I could have just kept going and going without fatigue. But I stopped along the way at a nearby stream that looked as though in a few years it could be tagged as a filthy waterway. I picked up some stones and skipped them on the water, trying to note what somatic or mental changes were developing. None so far. There was a bit of thoughtful querying on my part, probably due to the fact of anticipation. I jogged back to my apartment and took a thorough shower. As I washed, I could feel a more than subtle euphoric lightness in my head. It seemed to have a completely reassuring and relaxing effect on me. In contrast to other psychedelics which usually make me nervous and anxious as the euphoria begins. As I finished dressing, I could feel strong intoxication in the form of a clear, clean headspace and a lung-opening expansion of my chest. My visual field wavered and tilted slightly as if I had a few drinks. Pupils were dilated, and I got out some pre-chosen music to play. As I began to set up the speaker arrangement and prepare for the trip. This was a little over 2 hours after swallowing the pills. Things began to accelerate very quickly. A strong humming sensation in my mind and body grew to awareness encompassing reverberations as I sat Indian style on the floor. Upon seating myself, I looked up at the wall about 15 feet in front of me. And that was when the experience started to turn alien. The wall in front of me, of the fake wood design variety, became a mural of figures forming and morphing. They were mostly the heads of animals or unidentifiable shapes. The most remarkable was the noble head of a man-lion that seemed to be there to watch over me and offer a blanket of protection. Upon shooting headfirst into this transformation of my world, there was always with me a grounded sense of what was going on and who I was. Though I am not terribly familiar with the phenethylamines, I have read that this is characteristic of them. Only very briefly was there that reality ego loss that usually occurs with tryptamines. Though this was only during the first couple of minutes of the come-on. The come-on happened very suddenly for me, with a little somatic warning about 15 minutes before it hit. I stood up and shook my head, and this reality ego loss sensation gave way to more familiar sensations. The ride was remarkably smooth. Never was there the feeling of being on a runaway train. I could slow down or speed up as needed by pure mental control. For most of the trip I sat at my desk with my head down and my eyes closed, reliving many memories. This is truly a heaven and hell drug in that in one instance I felt like I was the living epitome of strength, determination, admiration, etc. And in the next instance I might feel like I was the muck that flows on the bottom of a city sewer. From near hysterical happiness with the world to near frightening sadness. The enduring quality of mescaline is its ability for me to see through subtleness and into the true meaning of things. As memory after memory was drawn through my synapses, I could instantly see what was really meant by this remark or that, this gesture or that, this facial expression or that. As for visuals, They were not of DMT flash clarity or complexity. But with eyes closed they were fairly incredible to say the least. Constantly on the move, evolving, colorful, eclectic, organic, otherworldly are all words that describe them. The ride down was very gradual with no hangover. And that concludes the ride. I plan on taking 1 gram of mescaline sometime in the near future. At this dosage level 1 anticipate that reality, ego loss to be complete and well out of my control. With a spectrum of experience approaching that of a strong ayahuasca journey. Thanks for reading and know when to be safe in whatever you do. Traveling. Johnny.